If your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
Here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire. Happy Friday, if you can call it that. We are playing this music in memory of Walter Scott from the Whispers who passed. And I know that for many of us, this is music that defined our childhoods, cookouts, and everything in between. So want to show some love to Mr. Scott as he transitions. And the beat goes on, because another day, another literal day in America, where this week again was, of course, all over the place. We could have had all of our attention on Trump's Middle East debacle, where he wanted to cosplay war, and his own intelligence agency said that he only set back Iran's nuclear capacity by a few months after all that. We could have focused on Trump's NATO performance, which was a lot of him just explaining about the success or not of his bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities. And then there was this bizarre exchange that I wish I could play Trump's words, but I'm not, because I don't really want to hear his voice. But this bizarre exchange between the former Dutch prime minister and the current NATO chief, who referred to Trump as daddy, in reference to Trump's role in the conflict between Israel and Iran, saying daddy sometimes needs to use stronger language while sitting next to Trump. You can do with that information what you will. We also could have certainly kept our attention on the ICE raids, which continue to terrorize communities here in Los Angeles. We see new shocking video every day of masked men harassing and brutalizing immigrants and U.S. citizens alike. We also continue to see neighborhoods and organizations coming together to resist this brutality. On Tuesday, a group of Black organizations held a press conference in South LA to highlight the impact of ICE raids and law enforcement's presence in Black communities, including the impact on Black immigrants. In the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined once again by Kevin Cosney, to talk about, who spoke at the press conference, to talk about what the organization's primary message was, the coalition of organizations, what their primary message was, and the solidarity work that is being planned around resisting in this moment. Last week, you all will remember we had our resident SCOTUS Watch guest on, Madiba Dinny. She talked about the cases that she was waiting on from the Supreme Court. We talked about Scrimeti, the case that the court decided on last week, that had to do with them banning gender-affirming care for minors in a case that came out of Tennessee. We also know that and Madiba noted at the time that case was about more than punishing or hurting trans kids. It was also about the 14th Amendment, and whether or not people are to receive equal protection under the law, which is in the 14th Amendment, one of the three sort of core tenets of the 14th Amendment, essentially saying that there was no discrimination in that case when clearly there was. But Madiba also talked about a couple of other cases that she was waiting on. And so this week was a doozy at the court. And today the court dropped some of their most unbelievable decisions to date. Later in the hour, we're going to be joined by Judith Brown-Dianis from the Advancement Project Action Fund to talk about the court's decision on birthright citizenship, on banning of books, and parents' ability to essentially dictate curriculum in our public schools. And we're going to talk about the case that they punted to next term, which will decide if Louisiana, it gets to keep her congressional seat. So a lot happening at the court. We know that there's been a kind of withering assault on the 14th Amendment, and the two of the cases from this week clearly shows that there is a willingness to undermine, to erase, to eliminate our constitutionally protected rights. But first, we are going to think about where we all were on Tuesday. Because I know that many of us were glued to the coverage of New York City's mayoral race, where progressive candidate Zohran Mamdani was taking on former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo in a race that brought just a tremendous amount of energy and excitement, I think, to every borough in New York, but also to cities across the country. I don't know anyone who wasn't paying attention. And on Tuesday, the night ended with Andrew Cuomo conceding, and Mamdani being the presumptive winner of the Democratic primary there. So we're going to be joined next by the co-director of the New York Working Families Party, Jasmine Gripper, to talk about the race, to talk about the victory, and what it means for New York City, what it means for cities around the country, and in lessons that New York might have that they might want to offer to the rest of the country as we're facing elections, not just this year, but the big midterm election year coming up next year. So we have a lot to talk about, both in this 4 o'clock hour as well as in the 5 o'clock hour. Please stay with us here on the Black Pack at KBLA Talk 1580.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money. I did not know what I was going to do. I was scared.
Agnes caught a break and found out about Optima Tax Relief.
But when I called Optima Tax, they guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can. And they did.
Optima stopped the IRS.
No more telephone calls, no more letters. Optima Tax took care of everything. I can finally sleep at night. I was stress-free.
Agnes was finally free from her IRS nightmare.
It was like a burden was lifted off of me, and it was a great feeling.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone because they got me debt-free from owing the IRS any more money.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, man. Hey, what's up, bro? What's that station you listening to? Oh, man, you don't know? That's Talk Radio. KBLA, 1580 AM. Check it out. 1580 KBLA. KBLA,
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're celebrating our 4th anniversary, and this track right here is the gift one of our devoted listeners presented to us.
Where you get some information, get a true education. Just to know, ooh, yeah, 1580.
How cool is that? Having a member of our KBLA delegation write us a song. Stop it! Our listeners love us and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Wouldn't want to. Thanks to Cardell and everybody else for turning on KBLA Talk 1580. We love you right black.
KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. Keep it like me. Ooh, KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive. KBLA.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. So this week in New York City, Democratic primary voters gave the nation, I think, quite a surprise by choosing New York State Assembly member Zohan Mamdani representing Queens. And I think there probably were some folks who maybe were not surprised, but I want to bring in Jasmine Gripper, who's the co-director of the New York Working Families Party, to help us understand what happened in the race and what happens next. Thank you for joining, Jasmine. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So let me ask you that question, because I think a lot of folks were surprised, and maybe surprised because people didn't know Zohan's name. And so, but tell me how you all are feeling, right? And I suspect that you all may have been thinking something different than many people around the country were, who I think thought that Cuomo would eventually just win.
Listen, we are excited in New York. We are overwhelmed by the results. We thought we can get close. We thought maybe we would win in the multiple rounds of ranked choice voting, because New York has ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
And we had a slate of candidates running together that cross-endorsed each other. We knew Andrew Cuomo wasn't going to get to 50% of the vote in round one, but we thought it was going to be a tight race to the very end, and we were going to have to make sure they counted every vote. And on election night, when Zoran was ahead and Cuomo was behind, oh my gosh, I think there was a feeling of disbelief.
Yeah.
And then the realization of we did it. It was like David and Goliath.
Yes.
Andrew Cuomo felt inevitable in some ways, but we were persistent in saying that he could not come back.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve to come back, and he actually is to blame for many of the problems that New York City is dealing with right now.
Well, I want to ask you a couple of questions, because I think one, it was really surprising. I think when I saw the sort of final poll numbers that came out, I remember thinking, this is tied. Like this is not a like Cuomo pulling ahead type situation. Like this race is not just close, it is actually tied here. And so that's when I was like, oh man, this is like something is about to happen here. But I want to ask you about, because you said you talked about ranked choice voting, and so I wanted to ask you about that, because most of the country does not have ranked choice voting, and in fact does not understand ranked choice voting. So if you could talk just a little bit about that, because I know that the actual results don't come out right until Tuesday, right? The sort of the official results.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about ranked choice voting one, and then you also talked about how you all had a slate of candidates that cross-endorsed each other. So like what was the strategy that you all used going into this race when you knew that there was, in order to sort of leverage, right, ranked choice voting?
Yeah, this strategy was a year in the making. Like, it took us a long time to develop it and to execute it to the extent that we were able to so smoothly. And what we did is folks remember, our current mayor, Eric Adams, was marred in scandal. And it was around the time when I think the FBI either raided his fundraisers home or took his devices. We gathered everyone in a room who had been rumored that they might run for mayor. And we said, hey, we should learn from what happened the last time. And what was really interesting is that Eric Adams had only won by 7,000 votes. And had the top two candidates cross-endorsed each other, we might have had a different outcome. So we started by understanding what happened the last time. And the other takeaway was our side was divided. The left was fighting against each other, and that allowed Eric Adams to emerge as the leader. Right. And so when we talked to the candidates from the very beginning, we said, what we can't do is we can't be divided. Right. How are we going to leverage ranked choice voting and work together and keep our side united and focus on defeating the enemy, the candidates of the billionaires? And at first, that was Eric Adams, who then didn't even run in the Democratic primary. Right. And then it became Andrew Cuomo, who is well known. He has 100% name recognition. His father was governor for many years. He then was governor many years and then left in scandal. And so what ranked choice voting allows is for candidate voters to pick up to 5 choices. And each round, if the first person to get to 50% of the vote wins. And so the person with the lowest vote is eliminated. And if the voters cast a ballot for a number 2 or a 3, those votes get redistributed. And so what we realized is that last time the entire political ecosystem kind of ignored that ranked choice voting was happening. Most people, most unions, most newspapers just endorsed one person. Right. And everyone kind of ran these solo campaigns. But when we did our research, we learned from California and San Francisco, we learned from Australia, other places that have ranked choice voting, that a slate strategy is actually a way to vote. You can appeal to different constituencies. Candidates are actually validators and good messengers to their vote base and telling people how to vote. And it also helped to keep our side together. And what we saw ended up happening is Zohran Mamdani, our number 1 candidate, and Brad Lander, our number 2 candidate for the Working Families Party, cross-endorsed each other. And that was the first time that has ever happened in a New York City race.
And they were enthusiastic about it, right? Like they were on the Colbert Show. They were putting out videos together. They're like, we're in the vote. If you don't vote for me, number 1, and vote for him, number 2. They were very clear.
They were clear. And the reality is our entire slate. So Zohran Mamdani, Brad Lander, Adrianne Adams, the current Speaker of the City Council, and Zelnor Myrie, a state senator from Brooklyn, were all a part of our slate. And when we were, they all were going around New York City saying, rank the slate. Rank the slate. Rank the slate. And don't rank Andrew Cuomo. Our side was extremely disciplined in that. Rank the slate and don't rank Andrew Cuomo. And so it was really important that we kept our folks together and the left wasn't divided, and we didn't cannibalize each other, which allowed us to stay unified and be focused on the main goal, which was defeating Andrew Cuomo.
So I think that is the, I'm obviously here in LA, and the message discipline was so extraordinary that I know what rank the slate is. Right? Like I know what rank the slate is, and the number of times that I heard rank the slate, do not rank Andrew Cuomo is like it was like I was still living in New York City, and like I was gonna vote. So I appreciate that. I mean, because I think that it is if you're not in a city where there's ranked choice voting, it's hard to understand what all that math is about, right? And so I appreciate you and I actually might ask you to say it again because I feel like it's important because there are other places that consider ranked choice or are considering ranked choice voting. And so essentially, I think what you just said is that when the lowest as people get knocked out, that those votes just get redistributed to whoever was their number 2. Is that how it works?
Correct. And it keeps going round by round until someone gets over 50%. Right. And so we were trying to encourage voters to fill their ballots because last time we realized that even without any instruction from the political ecosystem, most voters tried. And about 86% of voters ranked more than 2 candidates. But the other thing we also realized was about 100,000 votes were what we called exhausted, which means they actually went out on election day. They voted, but they didn't vote for any of the top 2 candidates. And so the votes just like don't count in the final outcome. And so we were encouraging people to fill their ballots with our slate of candidates so that the redistribution would happen and we could propel someone from our side to victory. And so what the Working Families Party did was we first announced a slate. And we really transformed the ecosystem in New York because many of the labor partners UAW endorsed a slate of candidates, whether it was 3 or 4 or 5. A lot of the grassroots organizations endorsed a slate of candidates. Again, 3, 4, or 5.
Right.
And all of a sudden there were like lots of slates and a lot of repetition with slates. And so we started with, here are our 4. And what we know to be true is any one of them would have made a great mayor for New York City. They were committed to stand up for Trump. They had a history and a track record of fighting for working people, and they would be ready to lead on day one. And after we had some time talking about our slate, we then actually proposed a ranking to give voters the most information when they were going into the voting booth. Here's exactly how to fill out your, because it is complicated. And the reality is this is only the second time New York City is using ranked choice voting. We've had our last November election the presidential race wasn't ranked choice. And so we thought voters needed a reminder and clarity on exactly what to do with their ballot. And so we proposed a ranking, and Zoran was the top of our ticket because he had the most propelling and energizing campaign, which I'm sure you all felt as the word about him went around. He went from 1% of name recognition to leading with nearly 50% of the vote on election day.
Yeah. So that is help us understand what happens next. So the election night results are what they were. Now is when all the math part happens, right, where votes start getting sorted, and then it will be Tuesday. Is that right? When the official results are known.
Exactly. So the New York City Board of Elections announced round one ranking on Election Day. They're waiting for all the mail-in ballots to come in,
of course,
so that we can run the ranked choice simulation accurately. So again, the person with the fewest is eliminated, votes are redistributed, and that happens until someone gets to 50%. And so on Tuesday, we will know. I do want to clarify is that on Tuesday night, Andrew Cuomo said Zoran Mamdani won the night.
Yes, that's right.
He chose his words carefully. What he did is that New York has a way to run on multiple ballot lines, and Andrew Cuomo has an independent ballot line that he is still able to run on. He has until midnight tonight to decline that line, and he had put out today that he intends to keep his name on the ballot.
Right. So let's talk about
whether he will run an active campaign is to be determined.
Well, let's talk about that in terms of what happens next. So we'll learn the final outcome from the Democratic primary on Tuesday. But I think you noted, or you maybe just alluded to the fact that Eric Adams, who ran as a Democrat last time, did not run in the Democratic primary this time, right? So he said that he would be an independent. You have potentially Andrew Cuomo running as a independent in the general. You'll have the Democratic nominee, Mr. Mamdani, and then you'll have the perpetual, always on the ballot, Curtis Sliwa, right?
Correct.
And
is that candidate,
right? And so that with that lineup, then, how are you all going to approach the general election? Because now it's not just the need to take on one kind of Democratic establishment character, right? In Andrew Cuomo, it's now also taking on the incumbent mayor. So how will you all approach that differently than you did the primary?
Yeah, well, I'll add just one additional thing is that the Working Families Party in New York has a ballot line, and we have fusion voting, so you can run on more than one line, and so Zoran Mamdani will be on the Democratic line as a presumed nominee, and we will put him on the WFP line as well. So, and the votes will combine for his total on Election Day. And then there's also a wealthy candidate, always, it's New York, Jim Walden, who also has an independent line. So it could actually be a really quite interesting election, which we knew would happen all along. We were always prepared to go all the way to the general if we needed to. And so what we are doing right now is phase one is consolidating support and minimizing the opposition to Zoran Mamdani. And we saw that today, labor unions, there were like two groups that came out. The labor unions who sat on the sidelines and didn't actually make a bet in this election finally came out and said, we support and endorse Zohran Mamdani.
Okay.
And then we saw two of the largest unions who endorsed Andrew Cuomo, 1199 and the hotel trades, saying we are now getting behind Zohran Mamdani. And so that is a tremendous effort. It's so like making sure we're building up his support for the folks who doubted him and who thought Cuomo was inevitable, and pulling support away from Cuomo to Zohran. We still have opposition. One of our U.S. senators in New York has been adversarial. Our governor has yet to come out and endorse a Democratic nominee, and hasn't given her support to Zohran. So we have more work to do.
And I'm sorry, and which senator is?
Kristen Gillibrand has some interesting words to say, and has not supported Zohran. Our current governor, Democrat, Kathy Hochul, has not come out and supported Zohran Mamdani. And so there are some people who are still resistant. And we have experienced, the Working Families Party has experienced this before in New York State. As you remember, a few years ago, India Walton won the Democratic primary in Buffalo. And the Republicans and the Dems ran a write-in campaign to protect the incumbent. So we know what it looks like when the Democratic establishment in New York rejects the left and attempts to usurp our democracy.
And I think I want to when we come through on the other side, I want to talk about this a little bit, because it's important to talk about this. The rejection is about some policies that actually would be quite helpful to So this idea of rejecting candidates that may be more progressive than others is also tied to the kind of vision, that Mr. Mamdani has for the city of New York, and it seems sort of unthinkable that Democrats would be in opposition to to some basic policies that are about helping families in New York. So I want to talk about that when we come forward, as well as just what else is happening with the party in New York. So more with Jasmine Gripper, co-director of the New York Working Families Party, when we come forward.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
Mike Island with BIN News Now. While some of today's Supreme Court decisions may seem like setbacks, some local communities are seeing victories, especially in the area of the school choice issue. In the Midwest, an Ohio community is celebrating a legal win after a county judge ruled Ohio's Ed Choice private school voucher program unconstitutional. The ruling sided with hundreds of districts in the state that filed lawsuits. Columbus School Board President Michael Cole is pleased.
That day just was a big win for us. I'm excited about it.
Cole is African American. The defense for Sean Diddy Combs says he's being charged for a lifestyle and not a real crime. Combs' attorneys are delivering their closing arguments at his sex trafficking trial in New York City. Federal prosecutors told the jury yesterday to use common sense when trying to reach a verdict. Combs faces charges of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hot spot on the 405 northbound before Ventura Boulevard. It's a vehicle fire. It's over on the right-hand shoulder. North 405 is slow from Culver Boulevard in Culver City up to the 5 in the San Fernando Valley. On the 5 northbound transition to the 710 northbound, it's a two-vehicle wreck blocking lanes of this connector road. 5 north Santa Ana Freeway, slow going from Valley View to the East LA interchange. On the 710 northbound itself, right at Washington Boulevard, it's a stalled pickup truck blocking lanes.
Tired of feeling alone in your job search? With just one connection, you can find endless job opportunities. That connection is Express Employment Professionals. Don't go it alone. Visit expresspros.com to find the location nearest you. That's expresspros.com.
Is this the title? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A troubling trend continued this week for HBCU men's basketball programs around the country. For the 13th straight year, no HBCU player was selected in the NBA draft. The two-day draft ended Thursday night at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. The last time an HBCU player was picked in the NBA draft was in 2012. Norfolk State center Kyle O'Quinn was a second-round pick of the Orlando Magic. The Dodgers have quietly moved into a tie with the Detroit Tigers for the best record in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers and Tigers are 51-31. Since June 14th, the Dodgers are 11-2. They take a 4-game winning streak into tonight's game at Kansas City. The Angels have won 3 straight. They play the Washington Nationals tonight night in Anaheim. It's a milestone game for the Angels. If they win, they go above the 500 mark for the first time since April 20th when they were 11-10. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and I am so happy to be joined by Jasmine Gripper, the co-director of the New York Working Families Party, about the impressive victory that we saw, victory with an asterisk because we really won't know the official results until Tuesday, by Assembly Member or New York State Assembly Member Zohan Mamdani. Jasmine, we were, or I was alluding to this sort of, that there are certain parts of New York City that are kind of freaking out right now, right? You have the business community kind of freaking out. You have establishment Democrats kind of freaking out. I saw, I think it was on one of the cable news shows, and I don't remember which one because I don't pay that much attention to them, but the gentleman who was talking was, sort of honestly freaking out and saying things like they're gonna eat the rich, right? And freaking out about a man who has a vision for New York City that is simply about making sure that people have affordable housing and healthcare, right? This is the, you know, the sort of freak out or the pushback or the, you know, resistance to Zohran Mamdani is, you know, about things that actually could be beneficial and helpful to working people. And so and there's also been this, you know, this across the country, this sort of like narrative that's emerging that's like, you know, what is, you know, New York City have to teach the rest of the Democratic Party, or how is this going to affect how the Democratic Party engages in their upcoming campaigns? And so there is a little bit of, you know, fear mongering. It feels like that's going on, and we can also just talk about the fear mongering that will definitely be present in the general in the form of racism, because we saw that in the primary. But just what do you make of the way that people are, you know, sort of melting down over a election?
What I will say is voters gave an astounding rebuke of the status quo and the establishment politics. And what I want to point out is that, yes, that happened in New York City, but that actually happened all across New York State on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. The Working Families Party was contesting for mayoral races in 3 of New York's largest cities. So our WFP endorsed candidate, Zohran Mamdani, won in New York City. Mm-hmm. Our endorsed candidate, Sean Ryan, won in Buffalo, New York, the second largest city, against a moneyed candidate that had a lot of Republican dollars behind him. Mm-hmm. Sharon Owens, a Black woman in Syracuse, New York, won her race against the Democratic establishment there. And Dorsey Aplears in Albany, also another Black woman who has a historic election, won her mayoral race in Albany, again against the dollars, hundreds and thousands of dollars of outside Republican money that came in our Democratic primary. Yeah. And so what we saw all across our state was how our democracy was attempting to be corrupted and bought by the billionaires for their back candidates who were going to do their billing. And the voters rejecting that resoundingly. And so it wasn't, you know, this idea that it was a fluke and it's New York City and you can't take away lessons. It happened across the state all on the same night. That voters said, we are tired of the status quo. We are tired of the billionaires telling us what to do. And we're tired of this idea that we can't have a city that works for regular working people. It is not radical for the mayor of New York City to say, I'm going to freeze the rent on rent-controlled apartments. It's literally within the mayor's control. And the reason why that's so important is that when we freeze rent on rent-controlled apartments, it actually signals to the rest of the market not to inflate prices too much. But when you raise the rent for the most marginalized and the poorest New Yorkers, then the private market is like, oh, we can raise rents on everybody. Right. And that is why we have the affordability crisis that we have. Yeah. And so Zohran's idea is not radical. Right. It's just a transition of who we're going to invest in New York. Are we going to continue to allow our cities to be a playground for the ultra-rich, while the people who actually make the city run are leaving because they can't afford to be here or are struggling? And we say life does not need to be this hard. Government should be working for you and on your behalf. Right. And you should have the things you need to succeed. In Buffalo, they were just like, we want our public pools to be open. That's not radical. That's just what should be done in a city like Buffalo. Our roads should be paved. Yeah. And so we had candidates who ran who said, you know what? We believe that government should be working for people. And in a moment where Donald Trump and the chaos of the Republican administration is happening, we need our local cities. The people who are mayors in our cities are on the front lines. Yeah. And we need them to have bold visions, and we need to know that they're going to stand up for New Yorkers and that they're going to protect their communities. And so I think people are scared. A little bit I'm going to say is like rightfully so, because voters don't want the stat. If you've been in the office doing nothing, you should start getting to work on behalf of the people. You don't have to reject this. You need to just like step up and lean into the moment that voters want more, and you need to start to deliver.
And it's a little contradictory too, particularly for the Democratic Party right now to be saying we want to listen to voters, and voters sent us a message last November, and we need to focus on costs, right? We need to focus on affordability. We need to focus on the economy, and then you have a candidate who does exactly that. right, who focuses on affordability, right, who focuses on what's going to be good in terms of the economy for regular everyday people, and then you say, oh yeah, no, we don't want you to talk about that either, right? So there's this sort of central contradiction, and it is that, essentially, the sort of Democrats want some kinds of candidates to talk about those issues, right? But not all candidates to talk about those issues, what it feels like to me, at least in New York, and I think it's probably true nationally as well.
I mean, I think the thing that is exposing is money in politics, and that both parties are controlled by the billionaires. And they hedge their bets, and they bet on Republicans in red cities, and they bet on Democrats in blue cities, and they try to maintain the status quo where they get all the handouts. It's been socialism for the rich and capitalism for the poor for years. And so people are trying to make voters feel afraid that Zoran is somehow going to be bad or dangerous because he wants to make the slowest buses in the world fast and free.
Right.
That seems like a reasonable experiment that New York should take on and do better.
A functioning public transportation system is something that people should be afraid of. Is essentially the argument. Well, let me ask you, we have a couple of minutes, and I do want to ask you about the sort of makeup of the electorate, right? There was much being made on election night about Brooklyn and Queens in particular, but other boroughs where you have significant Black populations, and those Black populations supporting Cuomo. And so when you all thought about your approach and you think about your approach to the general election, I wonder how you all are thinking about engaging in communities that didn't necessarily come out in the same level of strong support, although I know that it was different across the city, right? There are different levels of support. But just your quick take as we wrap up here on what it will mean to bring in, and particularly Black voters, into the coalition for Mamdani.
Yeah, and we're still getting data, right? Because the election is not over. Yeah. What we know is Mamdani actually did win over young Black voters, and a lot of young voters. Period. That 24-year-old age block had a massive upswing in turnout. They're usually an unreliable voter block who don't consistently vote and don't usually show up in primaries, and they showed up strong in this election. Yeah. Where I would say Zoran has an opportunity is to engage with older Black voters. And I think it's not a dead end there. I think we should be mindful. There were 3 Black candidates in the race. Right. And in some of these communities, Zoran got more votes than the 3 Black candidates in the race. Right. So, again, it's like he's not well known. And it's the outer boroughs where it's less densely populated, right? So there's a lot of single-family homes in those parts of New York. Yeah. And so it takes more time to get to people. It's harder. You don't get as much bang for your buck when you send an organizer to a space that's not as densely populated as you do in, like, some of the city centers. And so a lot of our organizing groups are in the densely populated parts of the city, and less so what we call the outer boroughs. And where there's more single-family homes. And so that's where a lot of older voters live. The other part is union influence matters, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There are some communities in New York City, when you go knock on the door, you can say whatever you want. They be like, I'm voting for who my union tells me to vote for.
Right. Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have 1199 and the hotel trades endorsements.
Exactly.
I think that's so. I mean, I think it also just seems like there's still time now for a lot of people to get to know Zoran Mamdani that I think just didn't know who he was also. And so there's so between now and November, and sort of as always, the sort of voter education becomes key and critical, and him engaging in those communities directly also. So I just want to say, thank you so much. I know you all have a lot going on, and that Tuesday ended, but it doesn't mean that the work that you all are doing ended. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on to talk to us about the race, to talk to us about, what you all are planning going forward, and just for all the work that that the WFP does, not only in New York, but around the country. So thank you for joining us. I'd love to, clearly we will be tracking with you between now and November as this unfolds. So I appreciate it and then look forward to having you back on. Say hi to Ana Maria for me, your co-director.
Absolutely, yes.
And I will. I'll be sure that we reach out and have you back on and give us the updates. When we come forward, we're going to be joined by Judith Brown-Dianis, Executive Director of the Advancement Project, to talk about what is going on in the Supreme Court on this day today.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at WalkGoodLA. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't
Don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580, and we are shifting our conversation from New York City to the end of the Supreme Court term. We talked last week about cases that were being decided on. We knew that there were going to be some heavy cases coming down this week. And then today was sort of the, ultimate drop all these terrible decisions on the public. And so I'm so pleased to be joined by Judith Brown-Dianis, the Executive Director of the Advancement Project Action Fund. And so, Judith, I know that you've been watching the cases. Obviously, I know that you're still studying the outcome of today's cases. But I wanted to just, sort of give you an opportunity to just sort of talk about some of the ones that feel most damaging. And so I wanted to actually start by asking you to talk about the case that is very close to home for you, which is the Trump versus Casa decision, which is essentially a decision about book banning, quite frankly, right? It's about book banning, but it's also about allowing parents to make a decision about when they opt out when they opt their children out of curriculum. And in this case, it was about books that feature LGBTQ characters in them. So can you talk just a little bit about that case and what it might mean?
Sure. So this is, it is in my backyard. It's in my real backyard. I live in Maryland.
Right.
And this is a case that was brought on, I'm going to air quote, religious grounds.
Right.
Where parents were challenging the idea that their children would be in classrooms where they would learn about what has been kind of quoted as subtle themes around LGBTQ people and their families, right? Mm-hmm. So discussions about families and the makeup of families and the celebration of marriages, et cetera.
Right.
And so the court says basically, parents, you can opt out of that, of learning about that on religious grounds. So I just want to hone in on what this could mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the Supreme Court. First of all, it's interesting because in the past, they never wanted to get into these kinds of policy decisions about education, right?
Mm-hmm.
And around curriculum. Now on the basis of religion, they're saying you can opt out, but you could imagine this opens the door to everything being on the table, right? I don't want it. This is I'm uncomfortable because you're teaching me about slavery and I'm white and I don't either believe that happened or I am concerned because I don't want my child to learn about these kinds of things, right? On the basis of race.
Right.
So it is the slippery slope, right? And the opening that we could see just being, just gobbled up by everything that is the, kind of I call it the white aggrieved people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are they are feeling or not feeling but they are saying that they are the victims of things.
Right.
And so you could imagine that
the victims of having to hear about other people. They are victimized by having to hear about other people.
About other people, to hear about history that the history that is real, factual, right? Or to hear about other people. And so you could imagine that this is both traumatic for LGBTQ families, right? Who are now being kind of targeted as and erased and being told that they don't exist or that their existence is offensive to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And will do damage to those who actually opt out of it, right? Because your children not learning that people actually exist is a problem for you, right? And for your children, because they need to be learning about this, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, it does. I mean, I think that's the what you raised feels like the really important piece here, which is that it is not just. I mean, it's a slippery slope, sure, but it is a slippery slope that this administration has been trying to push everyone down, right? So it is when you talk about the kinds of curriculum or the kinds of ideas that they are essentially saying we're no longer going to talk about, and then trying to backdoor, right, us all into the erasure of all kinds of things, right, or the erasing the discourse around all kinds of things, and we know that I think you mentioned the federally banned words or whatever it is, right? Like you can't talk about race, you can't talk about there's a whole list of things, right, within the Department of Education, right, sort of dismantling that says what they don't want schools talking about. This is a way, as you're saying, for parents to be able to, because the Department of Education shouldn't be messing around in curriculum anyway, nor should the executive office. But this is a way for them to sort of say, okay, have at it, right? For parents on the ground, sort of what we saw in Virginia in 21 around, CRT, right? Pick the thing you don't like and then go to your school board and say that you don't want them teaching it, right? That's what the opening the floodgates seems like it is, right?
Right. That's right. And also, like, the other thing is that religion is becoming it is becoming exactly the same as like what is happening on race. Like race is being flipped on its head around anti-discrimination law is now when I say it's flipped on its head, anti-discrimination law was put in place to protect non-white people because because of the history and the current of our country, because racism exists, right? And that is what's happening with religion, right? Mm-hmm. Like it is becoming like this argument that's now being used by white Christian nationalists, right? Who may find some other people that are going to come. It's just like how they use Asian folks to come after affirmative action, right? We're seeing this happen with religion too, and it being turned on its head about the kinds of religious protections that we think should be actually put in, falls within constitutional protection.
Right. So when we come forward, I want to talk to you about the other big case there's a bunch of them, but I want to talk about another big case, which is about birthright citizenship. When we come forward here on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Island with BIN News Now. While some of today's Supreme Court decisions may seem like setbacks, some local communities are seeing victories, especially in the area of the school choice issue. In the Midwest, an Ohio community is celebrating a legal win after a county judge ruled Ohio's Ed Choice private school voucher program unconstitutional. The ruling sided with hundreds of districts in the state that filed lawsuits. Columbus School Board President Michael Cole is pleased.
That day just was a big win for us. I'm excited about it.
Cole is African American. The defense for Sean Diddy Combs says he's being charged for a lifestyle and not a real crime. Combs' attorneys are delivering their closing arguments at his sex trafficking trial in New York City. Federal prosecutors told the jury yesterday to use common sense when trying to reach a verdict. Combs faces charges of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the free iHeartRadio app.
In Culver City, 405 southbound before Venice Boulevard, an accident involving a pickup truck and an electric vehicle is clearing off the right shoulder. South 405 very slow.